Top 10 rare gems that will be hot in 2026. Deep beneath a vanished volcano, a gem waits in silence, embedded in rock that may never break again. Not because it sparkles more brightly, not because it is flawless, but because fewer than a dozen people on Earth have ever held one. These are not stones sold by the gram. They are exchanged through whispers, behind vault doors, beneath museum glass, beyond public auction. In 2026, the rarest gems on the planet are not just rising in value, they are crossing a threshold, becoming currency, becoming legacy. And while the world continues chasing diamonds, those who understand rarity have already moved on. Don't forget to press and hold that like button, leave a comment, and hit subscribe before we begin. Ranked 10th, Color Change Sapphire, the gem that lives between worlds. Some stones carry color like a still breath, preserved in one unchanging hue. But a rare few seem to hold two souls, serene in daylight and electric under an artificial glow. Among them is a sapphire that doesn't just shine, it transforms. Beneath the noonday sun, it radiates the composure of royalty, the cool blues of imperial banners and distant mountain peaks. Yet come evening, under amber light, its body shifts. Violet blooms at its core, shadows deepen, the gem awakens. This is no trick of the eye, it's precision at the atomic level. Trace elements aligned in just the right balance to bend light itself. It's called metamerism, and few stones master it like this. Once dismissed as unpredictable, the color change sapphire is no longer a curiosity. What once confounded gem merchants now commands the attention of high jewelry designers from Paris to Osaka. What once bore the label unusual is now whispered in showrooms as the pivot stone of the decade. And that pivot is accelerating. Export laws are tightening in Sri Lanka, once a bastion of quality sapphires. In Madagascar, new licensing pressure has made consistent output nearly impossible. And in Tanzania, small-scale miners are abandoning sapphire for easier returns in Garnet and Spinel. As of mid-2025, appraisals for unheated color-change sapphires over 2 carats have quietly doubled across major houses from Geneva to Tokyo. Not because of fashion, because inventory is shrinking and acquisition windows are closing. Buyers no longer chase size alone. They want emotion, they want a narrative, they want proof that a gem can respond to the world around it. This sapphire doesn't rest in certainty. It thrives in flux, and in 2026, flux is the new foundation of value. Perfection is out. Predictability is outdated. In their place rise stones that move, that mirror change, that embody transition. And this one doesn't just mark the shift, it is the shift. Ranked 9th, Spinel, the flame that fooled the crown. For centuries, royalty mistook it for ruby. On crowns, in scepters, in altars lit by candlelight. It gleamed under the wrong name and did so without protest. Spinel never sought correction. It burned too purely, too vividly. And perhaps it understood something better left unsaid. The story behind a gem is sometimes more potent than its label. Of all the stones entangled in identity, few have worn their deception so elegantly. But 2026 will mark a reckoning, not for what Spinel was, but for what it's becoming. It is no longer the understudy to ruby. It now commands its stage. And the colors it brings? Cobalt blue, hot pink, tones that defy expectations. Saturation that stuns the eye. Cobalt Spinel from Vietnam's Luc Yen region carries a depth once reserved for sapphires, but with a softness that feels untouched. Mahenja's pinks, glowing like embers inside rose quartz, haven't seen their equal since the early 2010s, and likely never will again. The supply? Shrinking. Luc Yen's best veins are nearly tapped. Mahenja's production is a memory fading into dust. But it isn't rarity alone that elevates the stone. It's timing. Color has returned as the ultimate signature in a global market awash in synthetic precision. Designers seek boldness. Collectors want a narrative. And investors? They've stopped asking what Spinel used to be and are asking what it's about to become. In late 2025, private auctions across Asia crossed $12,000 per carat for top-tier cobalt stones. Silent sales, no marketing, just eyes that knew. In 2026, with palate taste breaking free from centuries of sapphire blue tradition, Spinel steps forward not as a replacement, but as a challenge. This isn't a gemstone echoing someone else's legacy. This is a stone carving its myth. In color, no lab can synthesize. From origins, no mind can duplicate. When the markets look back on the stone that redefined brilliance without needing permission, Spinel will be the turning point. Ranked 8th, Kornerupine, the spectrum that refused to choose. Some colors live in harmony, then some colors fight, not to dominate, but to coexist. And between them, a gemstone pulses like a quiet rebellion. Kornerupine, a name that lingers unfamiliar on most tongues. Yet within it lies a story of contradiction. Green that turns gold, violet that folds into gray, and flashes of copper when the light tilts just enough. Pleochroic by nature, Kornerupine never settles into a single identity. It bends perception. It asks the eye to look again. Discovered first in Greenland, but more recently unearthed in narrow Tanzanian and Sri Lankan corridors. Its crystal structure is dense, its formation brutal. Faceable material, clean, vibrant, and large enough to matter, appears only in slivers, and those slivers are vanishing. For years, Kornerupine remained a collector's secret, a gem seen through a loop passed from one private hand to another. But in 2026, that secrecy fractures. As the luxury market pivots toward color complexity, toward unpredictability, stones like Kornerupine are being reimagined not as oddities, but as expressions of nuance. Fashion houses in Scandinavia and Japan have already begun to embed Kornerupine into high jewelry concepts. Not front and center, but woven like coded messages into bespoke designs. For clients who want more than brilliance, they want layers. And the market is listening. From late 2025 into early 2026, Kornerupine prices have surged quietly, especially for untreated pleochroic specimens over 1 carat with crisp hue separation. Jewelry labs now report a 300% increase in global queries. Most don't ask, what is this stone? They ask, where can we find more? But the answer isn't promising. New mining licenses in Tanzania have stalled. Sri Lanka's deeper veins require high-risk extraction, and there are no significant discoveries on record. This means that this isn't waveforming. It's a pulse, fleeting, rising, sharp. In 2026, Kornerupine won't flood showcases. It will flicker. In one piece here, another there. Constantly shifting, always rare, always somewhere between green and something else. It's not a gem for everyone, but it's the one for those who see movement in stillness and know that the rarest colors are the ones that can't be named. Ranked 7th, the electric secret buried in ash. Some gemstones are born from pressure, others from fire. Hauyne emerges not from sediment or erosion, but from the violent breath of volcanoes. It forms in cavities left by ancient eruptions, fusing color and chemistry into a mineral that should have disappeared as quickly as it arrived. But sometimes remnants remain. Crystalline fragments the size of fingernails, glowing with a blue so sharp it borders on unnatural. A shade more commonly seen in flame than on Earth. This is Hauyne. It is a gem so saturated in neon blue that it often gets mistaken for synthetic, but the origin is anything but artificial. Most of the world's known supply comes from a single caldera near the Eifel region of Germany, a long-dormant, geologically unstable, and fiercely protected site. Smaller deposits have been recorded outside of Europe, in Pakistan and Afghanistan, but none with consistent output, none with commercial scale. And that's where 2026 begins to shift the horizon. A surge in nanoscale gemstone research has revived interest in ultra-rare feldspathoids like Hauyne. Meanwhile, European fine jewelers, Maison D, Russe and Roche, Atelier Lune, have begun commissioning experimental pieces featuring the stone, often bezel set in platinum, to amplify its unnatural glow. Supply remains microscopic. Faceable pieces above 0.5 carats are nearly unheard of, but that's part of the draw. Hauyne offers defiance in a world oversaturated with repetition, round diamonds and endless emerald cuts. A break in the pattern, a gem that feels like a flash of something not yet understood. And the market has noticed. Auction whispers began in early 2024. By mid-2025, sealed bids for deep blue Hauyne over 0.3 carats crossed the $8,000 per carat threshold, primarily from collectors in Zurich and Kyoto. And now, as 2026 arrives, the rarity has transcended novelty. Hauyne is becoming the quiet signature among those who seek the extraordinary in the small. It won't be set in engagement rings. It won't headline mainstream catalogs. It will appear where few are looking, in capsule collections, design schools, and museums before malls. And there, behind glass or under a loupe, Hauyne will burn brighter than stones 10 times its size. Ranked 6th, Jeremejevite. The equation few have solved. In some gems it is seen. In Jeremejevite, it is demanded. Few impose such strict conditions on all the rare minerals that reach the hands of gem cutters. The angles must be exact. The clarity must be surgical. The orientation must obey the crystal's stubborn geometry, or the result vanishes like vapor. Yet when it all aligns, Jeremejevite reveals itself, a vision of icy transparency touched by sky, sometimes blue, sometimes pale, always restrained. It was first identified in the frozen dunes of Siberia. Not from a mine, from a mineralogical anomaly, isolated and misunderstood. Decades later, more transparent specimens appeared in Namibia, tucked within arid pegmatites beneath the blistering stone. Then again, in Myanmar. Then, silence. There is no stable source, no large-scale operation, only bursts, unpredictable, uncontrollable, and increasingly rare. And that rarity is reaching critical mass. By the end of 2025, fewer than 10 clean stones above 2 carats were recorded in the International Trade Database. Private sales have escalated, not in noise, but in price. $18,000 per carat, then $22,000, then confidential. What drives such momentum is not just scarcity, but exclusivity of skill. Few gem cutters worldwide possess the technical command to facet Jeremejevite without loss, and collectors know it. 2026 will not flood the market with Jeremejevite. It will distill it. The gem will move upward from curiosity to credential, a marker of connoisseurship among elite buyers. Institutions have begun to circle. The Kyoto Mineral Institute, the South Kensington Archive. They don't ask how many remain. They ask how many will ever be cut again. Behind the scenes, designers are already sketching around absence. Ring sets with negative space where Jeremejevite might appear, if it can be sourced. Because in this stone, absence is part of the allure. Not every equation must be solved. Not every value must be visible. But in 2026, the name Jeremejevite will echo in rooms where silence once ruled. Not loud, just absolute. Ranked 5th, Grandidierite, the ocean that refused to be captured. Some stones shimmer, others radiate, and then there is Grandidierite, a gem that seems less like a mineral and more like light struggling to form. Discovered on the sun-baked cliffs of Madagascar's southern coast, it first appeared to geologists as a fragment, translucent, blue-green, tucked within the fractured metamorphic rock. The color was unlike anything they'd seen, not sky, not sea, but the horizon where both collide. Since then, the stone has eluded permanence. Large, fastable specimens remain so rare that most gem cutters encounter it once in a career, if ever. The mineral's trichroic nature makes orientation a battle. Tilt it slightly and the hue shifts. Teal, jade, aquamarine, all within the same crystal. It resists definition, and that resistance has become its signature. For a decade, Grandidierite lived on the margins of gemstone collecting, too rare for mainstream design and too unstable in supply for global distribution. But in 2026, the margins are moving inward. A surge of interest from East Asia, particularly Japan and South Korea, has repositioned the stone as an icon of complexity. Not bold, not flamboyant, but profound. Designers now pair it with platinum and raw silk, placing its layered color beside matte textures and pale metals that heighten its subtlety. Prices have followed. Between 2020 and 2025, investment-grade stones tripled in value. Now, as supply tightens and demand migrates from collectors to cultural tastemakers, Grandidierite enters a new phase not defined by visibility, but by reverence. There are no new significant deposits. The original veins in Madagascar are slow, shallow, and dwindling. Gem quality finds in Sri Lanka and Namibia remain inconsistent. And so the gem circles upward, not into mass production, but into myth. In 2026, Grandidierite will not be worn as fashion. It will be chosen as a statement and placed in heirloom commissions, ceremonial adornments, and silent auctions where cameras are not allowed. Its value will rise not from visibility, but from restraint. The deeper the color, the less it reveals. And in a market that chases certainty, Grandidierite offers something rarer: mystery with weight. Ranked fourth, blue garnet, the mine that changed its color. Some gems reflect light. Then, some make decisions. Among nature's rarest occurrences is a stone that chooses how it appears. One hue for the day, another for the night, never quite staying still. Blue garnet. It is so unusual that even seasoned gem dealers hesitate before naming it. By sunlight, it flashes teal or greenish blue. Crisp, clean, cool as deep water. But under incandescent glow, the transformation begins. A flush of violet, then wine, then crimson. It is as if the stone remembers the fire and decides to become it. Discovered only in the late 1990s and sourced primarily from Madagascar with minor veins in Kenya, in Turkey, this color change garnet is measured in grams, not kilograms. Faceable material above 1 carat is nearly unheard of. Stones that show full spectrum change, fewer still, but the color shift is only the beginning. In 2026, the shift is cultural. The luxury market, long anchored in static perfection, embraces volatility in texture, tone, and meaning. Jewelry designers now seek reaction, stones that speak to light as dialogue, not obedience. And in that conversation, blue garnet speaks fluently. High jewelry ateliers in Seoul and Stockholm are preparing limited releases featuring this gem, not as a centerpiece, but as a moment, placed strategically in rings that catch both boardroom sunlight and ballroom chandeliers, flickering between personas. Meanwhile, private investors have begun acquiring matched pairs for future resale. An impossible task a decade ago, now made feasible only by 3-digit bidding wars. In 2025, a 0.94 carat blue garnet showing full color transition was sold privately in Geneva for $68,000. There is no auction record and no press release. I am just a collector who understands that duality commands a premium, and the numbers are climbing. Mining in Beryl, Madagascar, has slowed to less than 10 grams per quarter. The best rough is now pre-sold before extraction, and synthetic replication, nowhere near successful. The color change remains biologically complex, impossible to clone without collapse. Blue garnet doesn't just respond to light, it rewrites the space around it. And in 2026, as the global market moves toward transformation as a luxury, away from static sparkle into emotional complexity, this gem will no longer be known as a novelty. It will be studied as a shift, rare in weight, unmatched in motion. Ranked third, Paraíba Tourmaline, the voltage that pierced the earth. Most stones absorb light. This one radiates it, as if it remembers lightning. Paraíba Tourmaline is the pulse that colors dreams of becoming. Neon blue, electric turquoise, vivid green laced with copper. A glow that doesn't just dazzle, it vibrates. First discovered in the late 1980s in a single narrow mine in Paraíba, Brazil, the stone exploded into global consciousness like a flare. Jewelry houses didn't know how to price it. Collectors didn't care. They only knew one thing. They'd never seen anything like it. Within a decade, the original mine had collapsed. Veins exhausted. Color vanished back into the earth. But the story didn't end. New deposits emerged in Mozambique and Nigeria. Some called them successors, others imposters until lab studies confirm their copper content, color structure, and luminescence, all authentic and breathtaking. In 2026, Paraíba Tourmaline isn't just rare, it's in revolt against tradition, against the dominance of ruby and emerald, against the muted palettes of minimalism. This stone is maximalist by nature, and the market is catching up. Global design trends in 2026 are turning tropical, saturated colors, asymmetry, and kinetic jewelry. In Paris, avant-garde designers pair Paraíba with black zirconia and titanium. In Seoul, neon-grade specimens are set into micro-architecture rings with UV-reactive glass. In Qatar, a single 3-carat Mozambique Paraíba sold in late 2025 for $213,000. Was purchased by a private collector with a museum clause attached. Prices have doubled since 2019. Now they accelerate. What drives this isn't just scarcity, it's visibility. Few gems are instantly recognizable, hard to fake, and impossible to forget. Even synthetic tourmalines can't capture the phosphorescent fire of true Paraíba. And the mines? Deeper, costlier, less forgiving. Each clean carat extracted from Mozambique now carries the weight of 300 meters of rock, rising labor costs, and political instability. That pressure only amplifies the light. In a world yearning for vividness, visual, emotional, personal, Paraíba Tourmaline has positioned itself not as an accent, but as a beacon. The gem that once shocked the world in silence is now the one shouting from every gallery, catwalk, and vault in 2026. And the voltage is only rising. Ranked second, Red Beryl, the empire encased in ember. Some stones shine like stars, and then some burn like memory. Red Beryl, once known only to the mountains of Utah, emerges not from lava or pressure alone, but from a fusion of extremes: fire, manganese, beryllium. A collision so rare in nature, the result has been found in just one place on Earth, the Wah Mountains. Where the land fractures in vertical veins and the wind carves silence into stone, this gem took shape in crystals thinner than a pine needle. Most were shattered during extraction. Fewer than 1 in 150,000 were deemed fit for faceting, and among those, almost none surpassed a single carat. Its color is defiant, deeper than ruby, more volatile than spinel, a crimson streak edged with magenta, anchored in the fire yet glazed with velvet. It does not sparkle, it glows. For decades, Red Beryl was folklore among gemologists. The kind of stone passed in whispers, shown in vaults, or sealed inside academic drawers marked unrepeatable. But 2026 brings a reckoning. The last known commercial mine shuttered in 2001. Stockpiles have dwindled to private collections and museum safes. Yet demand surges, not from middle market buyers, but from sovereign wealth funds, high jewelry ateliers, and gemstone trusts. Dubai has registered Red Beryl in its 2026 Cultural Heritage Acquisition Index. In Geneva, a matched pair totaling just 1.6 carats sold off record for a sum equivalent to a Central European apartment block. In New York, designers are reintroducing the gem into limited capsule collections, not as inventory but as a statement. Because Red Beryl carries something few stones possess, it is a story that has ended and will never be written again. No new sources have been found. No synthetic lab has succeeded in capturing its density or hue without collapse. As the gemstone world pivots toward rarity with irreversible finality, Red Beryl rises from a collector's myth to an economic relic. Not because it's trending, because it's vanishing. In 2026, it will not be sold. It will be sealed, insured, and archived, not worn for beauty, held for legacy, a remnant of geological perfection buried in a language no longer spoken, yet still burning, like an empire left beneath the stone. In first place, Musgravite, the shadow that carries the crown. No announcement, no ceremony, only silence. And from that silence, gravity. Musgravite has no legend. No empire ever named it. No god ever claimed it. It was not worshipped. It was not worn. It was simply found. First identified in the desolate Musgrave Ranges of Central Australia, it emerged like a cipher, gray-violet, unassuming, indistinct to the untrained eye. For years it was mistaken and labeled as Taphyta, filed incorrectly and passed over. Then it was tested, and the world changed. The structure proved foreign. The absorption lines whispered contradiction. The weight, the birefringence, the atomic lattice, everything familiar, yet displaced. Geologically, it is cousin to nothing. Commercially, it is kin to myth. As of 2025, fewer than 20 faceted specimens of investment-grade quality have ever been confirmed. Each one is named, each one is known, each one watched. There are no consistent mines, no reliable veins, only fragments. Madagascar, Greenland, Sri Lanka, a few crystals, then disappearance. And yet, in 2026, the silence breaks. Not in public auctions, not in market reports, but in private transactions, under glass, across borders, where wealth speaks in murmurs and desire moves without echo. In Zurich, a 3.1-carat Musgravite transferred ownership between two collectors for an undisclosed price, but it was insured at 8 figures. In Abu Dhabi, a single stone is set into an unmarked crown, not for royalty, but for ritual. In Tokyo, designers prepare to build around a gem they may never see. Musgravite is not beautiful in the conventional sense. Its color shifts between dusk and smoke. Its light holds weight, and that weight commands submission. Because this is no longer a gemstone, it is a threshold. Owning one in 2026 will not reflect taste. It will reflect access. It will not enter markets. It will bypass them. This is the final rung, where rarity becomes an identity, where matter becomes myth, where value escapes language. Musgravite does not shine, it absorbs. In the world of precious stones, rarity has always carried weight. But in 2026, that weight begins to shift, no longer measured in carats alone, but in access, in silence, in the stories that never leave the vault. What was once just beautiful is now strategic. What was once just collected is now watched by designers, by investors, by those who understand that in a world flooded with the artificial, the truly rare no longer shouts, it waits. 10 gemstones, 10 thresholds, and behind each a door quietly closed. The question isn't whether they'll rise. The question is, who will still be able to reach them? In the comments, let us know which one resonates with you. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more content like this.